Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca Jackson. Welcome to Microsoft 365 May. Before I get started with my presentation for you all, I'd really like to welcome all of our speakers and participants from around the world, but in particular, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this online conference is hosted, and the traditional custodians of the lands where our Australian-based speakers and participants are located, particularly the Wurundjeri, who are the traditional custodians from where I'm speaking. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past, present and future. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Rebecca Jackson, tōko ingoa, no Melbourne aho. On behalf of Microsoft 365 May, I'd like to welcome and acknowledge all our speakers and participants from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Thank you for supporting this hui. A quick note on our code of conduct. So Microsoft 365 May has a code of conduct designed to make the conference a harassment-free experience for everyone. Essentially, be constructive, be respectful, be helpful, and be kind. For the full version of our code of conduct, please see our website. And thank you very much to our sponsors who make it possible for us to share this amazing month-long event, free event, with all of you for your enjoyment. So I'm here to speak with you about content for everyone, basics for accessible writing. Again, I'm Rebecca Jackson. I'm a digital workplace and visual communication practitioner. But here's me in 5 pictures. First of all, my little professional picture. It's actually a selfie. I take 100. Digital workplace manager at NextDC. I'm also a Microsoft MVP and regarding 365 contributor. You can see me there with the MVP logo. I'm also the co-organiser of this event. For full disclosure, that's me going a little bit special, putting post-it notes on the wall. And very well known nerd by day, nerd by night. You can see me there wearing a TIE Fighter helmet in a Microsoft Teams meeting with our team the other day. And I am a sketchnote and graphic facilitator. I love to draw. So you're going to get a taste for that in this presentation. If you are following along on Twitter, feel free to tweet me _Rebecca Jackson and use the hashtag Microsoft M365May. And I've also got a blog, rebeccajacksonblogs.wordpress.com, where if you want to get in touch with me or you like my stuff, you can. But let's get into the content. Accessibility helps all of us, every single one of us. And I'm not going to spend very much time talking about the why of that because I only have 15 minutes, but I'm going to ask you to do 2 things. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is turn on your captions. So wherever you happen to be listening or watching me, there will be a closed caption option available to you. So if it's Microsoft Teams or YouTube, I encourage you to turn on that feature. First of all, because it can be pretty funny. I have an Australian accent, so sometimes closed captions can pick up things not quite in the way you are planning to enunciate them, but also it will help you get a better experience of the event and understand where we're coming from with accessibility. The other thing I'd like you to do is read this page and read all of the text. Actually, don't read it. I mean, you can if you like to, but it's a large block of small light grey text with no headings, no spacing, it's justified alignment, and it's our conference code of conduct. It's the example that I'm going to use throughout this presentation. It's, I think, very clearly difficult to read, and I'm going to talk to you about why that is and how you can use these principles to improve your own writing. And writing is for everyone. We should be writing for everyone. Yes, everyone. And the first thing I want you to think about is your headings, your title, page title, giving it a unique title. So giving your page a unique title differentiates it from all of the others on your intranet, on your website, your wiki, or whatever your content is stored. That unique title tells people what they're looking for and should be concise enough that it's easy for them to get, but descriptive enough that they know what you're on about. And so as our first example, I'm using our conference code of conduct page, and you can see code of conduct's pretty simple. The title is clear. It doesn't say, welcome to our code of conduct, or here is our code of conduct. And sometimes with titles, it can be very tempting to be to use a bit more flourish to make it sound fancier. Just keep things nice and clear and simple. The next thing I want to talk to you about is signposts and headings. People, when they're reading content, they're usually scanning, not actually reading word for word. They're browsing through and they're looking for the thing they're looking for, or to see whether your content is going to be worth reading. It needs to be clear and brief. organised and necessary. And you can use headings and other text features to break up content so that it's easier to read. Avoid starting your headings with what, where, why, and how. If you've ever been in a training session with me, this is something that you'll absolutely know. Starting your headings that way makes it difficult for people to scan read and is not giving them a very clear indication of what the heading is about. Use a key word at the beginning of your heading. Put a bit of effort in and rethink the way you write your headings. Also, use the headings that are available in your system. Resist that temptation to use bold or other colours because you want your heading to look different. Those system headings provide consistency and make it easy for people to navigate. So in our code of conduct example, I'm showing you the first 3 headings here, and they gave me pause when I was looking over this presentation and using them as examples. So the first heading is in one sentence, the second heading, the quick version, the third heading, the less quick version. I feel on review that these are pretty descriptive and tell you exactly what you're getting under each of these headings. Very clear, and it points to it, but I also wonder if there's a better way to write them. And if you think I can do better and have a better way to write them, I'd love for you to share with me via one of the many channels I pointed out to you, including the Q&A, which Debbie is monitoring for me while I speak. The next thing to think about is simple language. Just because you're talking about something technical doesn't mean your language needs to be technical. And while you might have a specific audience in mind, at least think about the newcomer in that audience who might not have all of the information. Great advice is to write for a 12-year-old. And if you think writing for a 12-year-old is dumbing it down, I feel like you probably haven't had a conversation with a 12-year-old recently. I'm not a parent, but I know 12-year-olds can be pretty smart. So avoid using jargon, or at least explain it, all that corporate jargon we have and all of those acronyms. If you need to use an acronym, you should at least spell it out in the first time you use it on a page. So in the example I have here, it's actually the content from the website, copy and paste it into Word, because I wanted to get an idea of what Word was going to say about how easy it was to read. So that since the last time I used Word for this, it's come a long way, and there's a really great feature in there called Editor that you can use, but you could use a tool like Grammarly to check for spelling, grammar, readability, and all of those things. There are amazing tools available now. But also it could be as simple as just having someone proofread it for you and ask them if they understand what you've written. Having easy to read text is important. So from a structural perspective, keeping your paragraphs short and to the point. Using things like dot point lists and tables if appropriate can make it easier to read because it breaks things up. And think about things like the font that you're using, the sentence case, and whether your text is left aligned rather than justified. All of those things change the shape of the text and can make it harder or easier for people to read. And most importantly, the size of your text. While a lot of websites allow people to adjust the size, it's really great to start from a point where people can read, anyone will be able to read it. So in our example from the website, I've looked at the paragraphs and I can see that there's a sentence structure that I can scan. There's a short sentence right in the middle that points to some really important information, but I've also noticed that there are a lot of long lists in there. And I question as I'm looking at it whether it would be valuable or easier to have those listed out, or whether because of the type of content that it's better left as is. But certainly something to think about. When you've got things that could be separated out into a list, it can often make things easier for people to consume. So I think that this page is quite good, but maybe there's some room for improvement. And links. This is me under the weight of all of the times people have used click here more and see more on websites. It's one of my pet hates. Minimize the use of links in your paragraphs. It's a really tempting thing to do, and you think you're doing the person who's reading your content a favour by putting lots and lots of links in there, but it actually makes it more difficult to scan read because you can't actually read the sentences. Also, if you need to use links, hyperlink a short and meaningful phrase. Those click here's more and see more don't give anyone anything when they're scan reading. And I'm not going to talk about reading tools, but it can make it really difficult to use those as well. So avoid those click here's and see mores. On our page, we've only got a handful of links. So you can see it's in the section called Original Source and Credits. So at this point, I can tell you that the original source of our Code of Conduct is the ADA initiative. We adjusted it slightly to suit our own needs. And the links are telling people where they can get the information from. And I've copied it directly because that's how they asked to be credited on the site, which is a nice thing to do. But also, I think the links are very common sense. You know what you're clicking on when you get them. However, it leads me to my next point, which is about colour contrast. So colour contrast is a huge topic that I'm only going to touch the surface of to give you a sense for why it's important. So colour contrast is more than just about whether someone has a vision impairment or is colourblind. It's that the difference between the background and the foreground and making something easy to read, and that is relevant for absolutely anyone. Get the wrong two colours together and anyone's going to have trouble reading, if you think back to that paragraph that I showed you in the beginning of my presentation. So with colour contrast, I did a quick check with a contrast checking tool. You can get lots of these for free. I've linked to it in my resources in the deck. But what it's telling me is that normal size text, the orange that we use and the white do not work well together at those normal sizes. For larger text, it's okay, but not the best, and we can use it for graphical objects and other interface options. My advice to you is with text, stick to basic black and white if you can, and if you want to get creative and use colour, talk to a designer and educate yourself on colour contrasting tools. So I'd really hope that I've encouraged you to learn more about accessibility. I've got a few links here that I'm going to quickly talk over. So the absolute resource for accessibility is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. The Australian Government has a lot of information, as does Vision Australia. Their resources are amazing. The colour contrast checker I used is linked right here, and Microsoft has a lot of amazing resources about accessibility. Also, Global Accessibility Awareness Day is on May 21st, so there's going to be heaps of stuff happening this week. If you haven't already, grab your phone and scan the QR code because not everybody will be able to scan it. I asked if Debbie can drop that link into the Q&A for you, just in case you need to click on it rather than scanning it. And the prize draw, if you're registered to the event, gives you the opportunity to win some cool stuff that we're hoping to announce very soon. We've got some stuff coming in the mail and it's all sitting in Lorian's office. So that's the end of my presentation. If you do have the urge to contact me, here are all of the ways you can get in touch with me. I will share this on all of these channels you see in front of you. The deck and the recording will be made available later. But yeah, grab me on Twitter or my blog or LinkedIn or wherever. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, let me know where you found me so that I know you're not some weird spammer, because that sometimes happens. Thank you so much for listening to me, and hopefully I've left us some time to take Q&A if there is any to be had. Debbie.
Yes, there is a couple of comments there. Did you want to look at them, Rebecca, or do you want me to read them out?
I'll get you to do it, because otherwise I'm going to shake my laptop and it's going to be weird.
Okay. The in the second and third headings could be removed to make it engaging. Hate that word, without losing meaning. And I think that was referring to your code of conduct. Yeah, you know where I was.
Good call.
Yeah. And the other one is Greg talked about, and Kyra, I think you meant Brett, but anyway, talked about the click here and see more from a screen reader point of view in the previous session.
He did, yes. So Kyra is referring to Greg Alton, who was a couple of presentations ago, and I highly encourage you to see Greg's presentation. I've seen it twice now. He's amazingly knowledgeable on the topic, and because of my own time limits, that's why I didn't get into it. If you're using a screen reader, which is a tool that you basically reads out the content of a web page to you, and you're going through, it gives you information about where the headings are, so it tells you when there are headings, which is why headings are important. And things like click here, see more and more, it's actually like you skip through and all you hear in your headset is more, see more, click here, which tells you absolutely nothing. So it's very important for people with screen readers. But if you think about it, when reading your own pages, if you're scan reading and your eye is drawn to links and all you're seeing is click here, see more, see, that type of thing, you have to go to the effort, which sounds small, but it's actually quite big. You have to go to the effort of reading the entire sentence to get that context. And I think you'd much rather people immediately get it rather than be annoyed by having to read all of this stuff to get to the point. Good call out, Cairo.
Is May the 22nd also Lorian's birthday? Is it?
May the 20th is Lorian's birthday. So that's Global Lorian's Birthday Day, and that's a reminder I need to prepare some things.
Awesome. I think that's it from the questions. Just some wonderful comments. Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. All my friends have joined. Well, if that's all we have for questions, I'm more than happy to finish up here. Thank you, Debbie, so much for moderating for me and making it so easy. And yeah, thank you to everyone who joined on the line.
No worries. See you later.
Bye.
There was one more question, sorry.
Ooh, one more question. I'm standing here with my "we're not going live anymore" face.
I know. Also, we should think about keeping our language neutral and not use words like see, etc. It was a comment rather than a
Words like see. Yeah, there was a lot that I left out of this presentation because I did want to do something nice and quick and short and snappy. Absolutely, tools like Grammarly, I've noticed, are really amazing for helping with gender neutrality and inclusivity in terms, if that's what that's referring to, and also PowerPoint. In preparing for this presentation, there's another session by Amy Holden, which you should check out, about Presenter Coach. So I use Presenter Coach to prepare for this presentation, and Presenter Coach will tell you if your language is inclusive, if you say a lot. So I look forward to finding out how many times I've said in this presentation, but I tried. Yeah, this see, there's some really great tools there available to help with that.
Great. Okie dokie.
Are we actually done now?
I think so.
Right. I'll put my "we're finishing" face on and say bye.
See ya.